honest home loan.
Welcome back. Well, property investing is nearly all about the numbers, and so with the latest property statistics from around the country, we're joined by Charles Tarbey from Century 21. Welcome, Charles.
Thanks, Kate. Good to see you.
Let's take a look. Good to see you too. Let's take a look at some of the numbers that we should be looking at this week.
Okay, well, we'd like to cover off on 4 of them as we go along.
Right.
But Chris is sick again. I spoke to him earlier on, so he's not feeling too well.
I'm filling in. Don't worry, he will be back next week.
He's tucked in bed with some chicken noodle soup and some Vicks vapor rub, he told me.
Well, that's good. The viewers will be very happy to hear that. Might be watching at home right now.
The auction clearance rates, look, they're steady. We've been talking about them being steady. The papers were talking boom, talking upper boom, and I couldn't see that, and I still don't feel that. And I think it's a great steady market. So overall, it's sitting at 65.4% nationally. But star performers, Sydney again, 74, Melbourne at 65.1. But Adelaide, that's been really kicking in every week. Week after week in the 50s, and it hit 55.9. So something's going on in Adelaide that not too many people are talking about. So those are the 3 capital cities from an auction point of view that are performing well. Each other capital city has their own performance based in what they're doing, but in auction clearance rates, they're the 3 that are really doing well right now.
Okay, fantastic. Let's take a look at the homes advertised for sale.
Last week I talked about a negative 5.06. This week it's a positive 5.18. So it's just basically balanced itself out. We're not really expecting a lot to happen, although I think that ready for the new year, January, February, people will want to sell. So maybe there's a few coming on that may not be announced for auction. Certainly it's getting a bit late now to put something to auction. The market I'm enjoying watching the most is the New Zealand market. I've really focused on Auckland because, even though that's not their capital city, it's the one that's the most active city when it comes to real estate and what people think in terms of New Zealand. And it's had a marginal increase in the amount of stock on the market, only a marginal increase of the overall stock in Auckland, but it's had a 16.8% increase in the number of new listings. So it means that there's more coming in, but the amount of stock on the market is still steady. So they're still selling. So they're still doing a lot of work there and getting some movement. And that's the marketplace I'm watching because they're ahead of us on the clock, on the real estate clock.
Okay.
New Zealand is. So good market to watch.
All right, we'll keep an eye on New Zealand. We might come back to that a little bit later as well. We've also got residential rent price movements.
Yeah, and they've been really, really steady for quite some time. And they've been steady because I think a lot of the tenants are buying property and some of them buying the properties that they were renting. So we're seeing a fair bit of that occurring. So that sharp climb that we had earlier last year and throughout part of this year hasn't been happening. Sydney's sitting at 12.65% as an increase over this time last year. When you look at the 3 capital cities I use, and Melbourne sitting at 7.38%, but Perth is still climbing 18.32%, but it's been sitting in that range for a while. So overall you've got a 12.78% increase right across those 3 capital cities, but it's been sitting in the 12s for a while, and that chart shows the flat line that we've had in rental growth. And I don't see that changing very much at all, so.
Okay, and we've also got vacancy rates. This will be interesting.
They have the same sort of reflection. Sydney's been one of the better performing capital cities, sitting at 2.59% vacancy rates. That's really, really healthy. Melbourne, it was up and down there for a while, but it's actually flattened out a little bit, 3.29%. Good, a really good level to be sitting at. But Perth has been the most volatile one. That's been jumping up and down everywhere. And it was last week it was high. This week it's 5.9% again. So when you add the 3 capital cities together, we've got a 3.93% vacancy rate on that average. But Perth again, a lot of tenants are trying to buy their properties, and it's leaving a vacancy rate there, which could mean that the rents are going to sort of stay flat where they are, which aren't bad. They've had good increases there.
I actually wanted to ask you about that. Tenants buying the properties that they live in. It's an interesting concept because do you think they're often, I guess, willing to pay perhaps more than market value because they've become so comfortable
to it and so on. And what's happened when you look at it, if you go backwards, about a year ago we were talking about the fact that it was becoming dearer to rent than it was to buy. And I think people started listening to the news that was going on out there and what they were reading and so on. And eventually they've gone, you know what, we can keep this home, it's ours. Why don't we buy it? So if they come up for sale, they're gone. And often the agent doesn't even know about it. Sometimes they might have the contact of the landlord and they go straight to the landlord. And before you know it, the property's off the market for rent and for buying. So
yeah, fascinating.
It's an interesting scenario. But great marketplace across the country. I was at Kangaroo Valley this morning, which is 2 hours south, not playing golf down there. Would have loved to. A whole bunch of my mates are playing golf. You're down there. I miss you. Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Charlie.
There's a shout out.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed I wasn't there. I'm starting to notice down in those areas, as you move outside of the capital cities, the market is starting to move again. So we're starting to see it filter across the country one more time.
Charles, thank you so much, Charles Tarbey there. We really appreciate you joining us on the program. And Chris Gray is going to be back in the seat next week, so make sure you tune in then.